We've been receiving at the office. Brown and Finn have been receiving calls ever since the hearings. We're going to address those issues, so stay tuned. Be prepared a little bit later to give us a call. The number will be up on the screen, and hopefully you'll enjoy the show tonight. We're going to this commercial message.
In 1981, we set out to build a unique satellite TV magazine. For 5 years, we've covered all the satellite program news and now bring you over 8,000 hours of satellite viewing each week with the easiest-to-read grid format. If you own a dish, you need to know. And when you need to know, you need Channel Guide. For your free sample, call us at 800-654-3006. Channel Guide gets with the program.
Welcome back. Tonight, before we get into the heart of the show, Joe, I think it would be important, first of all, let's kind of recap from our perspective, from a journalist perspective, from my perspective, coming from a dealer in the industry, exactly our viewpoints of the hearings. I was totally impressed.
Jerry, I think we came out of the hearings and scored a giant victory. There's no question about it. And I think that the cable television industry and broadcasters came out and suffered, if nothing else, a black eye. It was very important for us. We came out, there's no doubt that we've built a lot of momentum, and at this point it's very important to carry that momentum on, and I think that we're going to get into talking later on in this show just how we can carry that momentum on, what we have to do, and what we need to do to keep it rolling.
It was very evident to me in being a participant at the hearings, as a spectator that is, to realize that the congressman had a very open mind, definitely an ear to our industry. Not knowing personally what to expect ahead of time, I couldn't believe they became champions of our industry. Congressman Towson, Congressman Worth, several others. Charlie Rose, who gave testimony, gave a fantastic impassioned plea, speaking as though he was a member of the industry itself rather than just a supporter. I couldn't be more pleased with the results. The players on the other side, from my viewpoint, did not fare well in their presentation. It seemed as though they were unprepared, Joe, to me. It seemed as though that maybe they came into these hearings thinking that it was a walkaway situation for them. But whatever the reason was, the full committee was there. The members of Congress spoke that they have gotten a very large response from their constituents on this issue. We appreciate the fact that this industry has rallied and united to give support to these hearings. One of the things we need to emphasize tonight is we can't stop. We need to go further. We're going to have another day of hearings. It's just an awful lot of enthusiasm, which we needed, which we brought to the hearings. We all came away with a double capacity of enthusiasm, and I think a renewed effort and renewed spirit and unity that was important. And following up to our own trade show, I think we're on a roll.
No question about it, Jerry. There was a lot of preparation involved, and there was no doubt that this was a credit to the staff. This is a credit to all of the homeowners who wrote letters to their congressmen, asking their congressmen to support the legislation, asking their congressmen to look into the issues, and I think that this combined effort, this cooperative effort of everybody helped to ensure a very successful day.
You know, it's no secret that in the past there's been an awful lot of criticism, and I want to say this before Rick Brown gets out here, of Rick Brown and what he's done for the industry. I think everyone, and in fact I got a lot of phone calls at the office. I had a lot of feedback from people saying, you know, we've criticized ourselves. We have some things that we've had problems with in the past. It's obvious Rick Brown did his homework for the industry, and I think he's to be commended. Taylor Howard did a wonderful job. Those congressmen have been given our message, and they understand it, and I think the credit to that goes to Rick Brown and his firm and his staff.
No question. I think we also have to give credit to Mary Lou Hines, who was outstanding. She also provided testimony, and as I mentioned, Rick has done an outstanding job just grouping everybody together and getting this concerted effort, which was, you know, very much needed.
We'll get back to the point of the hearings in a few minutes. But Joe, a couple other things. Let's bring the industry to an update on a couple of things. The executive committee gave definite direction at their last meeting in Las Vegas and told us, as staff, for Space, to take the direction that the thrust of the industry outside of the legal and legislative move was in a public relations area. a public relations firm was hired at the trade show. Briefly fill us in on that, and I'd like you to kind of bring out the fact that we had a couple of meetings with the PR firm already, but yesterday's meeting was very important. Let's kind of encapsulate that.
I think it is. It's another important track that this association is on, Jerry. It's true that we are on a track designed to ensure through legislation that homeowners have access to scrambled programming and that they have access at reasonable rates. On the other hand, we are on this track in order to promote the benefits of owning a home satellite earth station. And in accomplishing that goal, the Executive Committee and the Board of Directors has recommended that a public relations firm be retained. The board voted to retain the services of Fleischman Hillard. Fleischman Hillard is the third largest public relations firm in the country. They are now working for us. They helped us man the hearings on Thursday, and they will be involved in efforts which we are now undertaking at this exact moment. It is an important effort. I think we have to work on both of these tracks.
Because of this, the sensitivity that we realized we had to have in the critical areas where we've been criticized for a lot of things we've done, which I think is something that happens. Whenever you do something positively, you're going to be criticized. Whenever you're taking action, there are going to be those detractors, people who don't feel you're doing a good enough job or that your direction is misguided. I'd like you to bring out, if you will, at the meeting yesterday, when we were approached with the idea that there needs to be some unification on this PR move, that there were some people feeling that maybe it should not just be a joint or a venture of space to address PR for the industry, but for financial reasons as well as some leadership reasons and some management reasons, they felt it would be good to form a coalition. Would you expand on that?
I think that's important, Jerry, to note. Two of the members on the Public Relations Committee, Doug Brown and Lee Keck, advised us that many members and many companies in the industry felt a little bit uneasy about contributing to space. They felt that any money that they contributed toward public relations would instead be used for legal and legislative efforts. That would not be the case. To ensure that that's not the case, the association has agreed to work with this committee and take the public relations effort outside of space. The committee itself will orchestrate all the efforts of the Public Relations Committee. Space will join that committee. Space will earmark funds that it has been given to help support that whole issue. The Public Relations campaign will be run by each of the members. The objectives of this campaign have been laid out by the members. The objectives clearly are to promote the benefits of the dish, basically to ensure that there's a dish in every yard. We want to let consumers know that the dish offers more choice, better choice, more availability. If you live outside of a cable franchised area, it's your only choice. And we're going to drive this point home, Jerry, and there's no question that we're very serious about it. This association is very sensitive to the concerns of companies and members, and thus we're cooperating in this effort.
It's a good point, I think, that even though we know otherwise, that we take a back seat and have offered, as we have, to support this effort, take instead of a leadership role in the PR campaign, to let the committee run a steering committee, be a steering committee, form a coalition, and to earmark these funds to support the industry in an attempt to show that what we need is unity industry-wide, not just space members, but everybody industry-wide. This is a common cause, a common goal. We want consumers back in the showroom, educated consumers, successful dealers, industry-wide. And I think this is the best approach for us to take, and it's obviously going to have some effect. It did with those people yesterday that were concerned.
I think we should mention here that the first part of this campaign, we're going out for 3 months. The Public Relations Agency is going to design a package. The press release package and press kit will basically be the foundation of this whole program. They're going to be contacting all the major media in Washington, D.C., in New York, and in Los Angeles. And we're going to do a road tour, possibly hitting 4 key cities, Two of those cities will probably be Los Angeles and New York. The reasons that these two cities were chosen is because most of the major mediums, the newspapers and the radio stations and television stations, are located in these areas, and we expect that any coverage we get in those cities will be picked up and then fed into rural parts of the United States so that we can expand and get the maximum bang for this campaign. The 3-month campaign, we want to stretch it out further, but to expand that campaign beyond the 3 months is going to require more funding. Both Lee and Doug Brown said that they will be trying to solicit additional funds from people in the industry to try to get this campaign moving, because it's going to take more time, more money, and we have to keep this going.
It's obvious that right now this industry needs to rally behind an issue around unification, public relations, getting customers to understand, potential customers that is, to understand the truth about scrambling, the truth about access at reasonable rates, so that they will be coming back into our dealer showrooms, which will trickle up and support the oil industry, distributors, manufacturers. It's important for all of you distributors, for all you manufacturers, and all of you dealers, Space members, as well as everyone else, to rally behind an issue like public relations, which is going to help the whole industry, and please support this issue. Support the issue. When I'm not asking you to support Space or any particular entity, support an issue which is in support of the industry.
Jerry, I think it's important even to take that a step further and to ask groups that may not see eye to eye with what this association is doing to bury the axe and bury the hatchet, because things are too important now to go out on tangents. And I think we have to try to find areas where we can agree and to just get this show on the road and to just stop all of the quibbling.
Joe, we've been asked, almost demanded by some of our dealers, some of our distributors, some manufacturers, to address groups, especially one particular group, which is FM America, which we have not addressed previously. We have taken issue. Taylor Howard has offered to meet. I would like you to explain that you offered to be on the show, and I don't want to spend a lot of our show to this point, because I think it would be fruitless based on the response that we've gotten in the past. But I think it's important for the viewers out there, for our membership, as well as others, maybe more importantly for others, to understand what our position has been and the attempts that we've made that have been met strictly with slanderous remarks, basically. That's exactly what we've gotten out of it.
Yes.
Would you explain the
Jerry,
situation?
no, we have met. We've tried to talk. I spoke with Keith briefly. We tried to at least come to some terms that we can both agree on, some common interests, and we were unsuccessful. But I think that we're willing to try to cooperate and at least see where we can go in order to just separate these issues and separate these quarrels.
I think it's important to note that the win last week in Congress, if it indeed was a win, and I believe it was not an FM America win. It was not a Space win. It wasn't a Rick Brown win. It was a satellite industry win. And anybody can blow their own horn and claim credit for a good day of hearings. The bottom line is that the industry is by far better off today than it was last Wednesday afternoon, and we need to unite to make sure that we continue this effort all the way through. And any particular group which takes exception to certain things that Space does, or if we feel that way about any particular other group, I think, like you said, it's time for the unification. If we are all, in fact, representing dealers, consumers, and people out there in our viewing audience, it's time for us to show them that that's exactly where we're coming from. You know, we have a motto that Space is dedicated to serving its membership. Well, I believe we really are. And we're not without mistakes. We aren't without some misdirection in the past. But if you don't make mistakes, you don't grow. And I think that the point that you made is well taken. Hopefully there'll be some response. We can belabor that.
I think at this point, Jerry, it's good. We're glad that members of FM America made an effort to come to the hearings on Thursday, and the same for members of Astro that made an effort to come and support this industry, because the support of everybody is needed.
Absolutely. We're going to take a commercial break right now, and we'll be back with Rick Brown and Robin Neidert and our call-in segment.
Dealers, Luxor presents great savings on the best selection of satellite products in the industry. It's your Luxor Satellite System Sales event. And it's the easiest, most efficient, most cost-effective way to get the satellite products and services you need to be a successful home satellite TV dealer. One call delivers the electronics, antennas, and accessories, all Luxor brand, all guaranteed and all backed up with technical support when you need it. Here is system package pricing like you've never seen before, ranging from the top of the line 9900 block satellite system with a 10.5 antenna to the $99.95 receiver package with a 9-foot aluminum antenna. All prices are suggested dealer cost. Actual dealer costs are determined by your authorized Luxor distributor, who has the details, or call 1-800-245-9995 for sales and service information. Ask about the $25 manufacturer's rebate.
With more than 100 channels available on your home satellite system, a good programming guide is an absolute necessity. OnSat packs more viewing information in its 88-page weekly format than any other program guide, including daily primetime highlights in a handy grid format, plus complete listings in an easy-to-read rolling log. Daily sports listings by category. The largest alphabetical movie description of any satellite guide. A complete listing of satellite locations and each transponder, and much, much more. All of this can be yours for only $45 per year. That's less than $1 per week. We're so sure you'll like OnSat that we would like to send you a free sample copy. Pick up the telephone and call toll-free now for your free copy of OnSat. Call 1-800-438-2020. That's 1-800-438-2020.
Welcome back. With us in this portion of the show is Robin Neidert from the law firm of Brown and Finn, and Rick Brown. Welcome.
Thanks, Jerry.
How are you doing tonight?
Good, Jerry. How are you?
Good. I think that the enthusiasm that we all feel after coming out of those hearings last week is evident on both of your faces. Robin, it's kind of hard to tell because you're usually so upbeat. We get a lot of calls, people telling us how much they enjoy having you on the show, so you don't have to feel free to participate too much tonight. You just are welcome to the set, and you kind of add a little bit of zest to our set.
Well, thank
It's
you.
very good to have you here. We feel a lot better. We talk on day-to-day basis over the phones, and sometimes we're all low depending on some of the battles we've been through. Hopefully we can ride this high that we're feeling from last week, but whichever of you cares to start first, how about some comments from last week, from the hearings?
Well, you testified, so I guess maybe I can give a little bit better perspective since you were sitting up there the whole time and had to give that great speech that you gave.
It was only 6 hours.
That's right, without a break, everybody. We are very pleased with the kind of response that we're getting back from Capitol Hill. I think if you watch the hearings at home, you saw the kind of interest that the congressman had in exactly what was going on. And that's something I don't think that any of us could have predicted. Take Congressman Kindness. He was there, wasn't he? Take Congressman Nielsen in particular from Utah. Congressman Nielsen went to HBO, went to Viacom, and said, how much are you charging? And then when they explain that, well, we don't have to run cables to these people's house, and we don't have to maintain a cable system, so we charge home earth station users $1 more than we charge cable operators, Congressman Nielsen said, well, that makes perfect sense to me. Now, Viacom, tell us how much more you're going to charge when you have to do less work to serve somebody. That shows a kind of understanding that I don't think anything could have brought home to these congressmen, but actually seeing these companies get up in front of them and tell them that these are truly, this is not a joke, this is truly their policy, to charge more to someone that they give less service to.
Yeah.
So the feedback's been tremendous. We have a lot of follow-up work to do. There's been a lot of questions asked, a lot of additional information we've been asked to supply. But that kind of response, nothing but a hearing can generate that, and now the industry's got a big job ahead of it.
Rick, I have a question. A reporter, I won't name the reporter, but he asked me, how did we get so many subcommittee members to show up all at the same time? They said they can't remember going to a telecommunications subcommittee meeting recently to see that many members show up.
Joe, there's a lot of answers to that. Actually, there's one answer, but with a lot of facets to it. One is that it is an interesting topic. Two, by all the letters that have been generated, it's become an emotional issue, as several of the congressmen have stated. And 3, you have to do a lot of homework. You have to encourage the congressmen to become interested in the issue, their staffs to become interested in the issue, and encourage them to attend to learn more. And then to brief each and every one of them in detail. And I think the reason you get so much good input from the congressmen in hearings like that is the briefings they get at home when they go at home, when the dealers go to visit with them, and the work that we do in educating them and their staffs as to the issues and the appropriate questions to ask. So hearings generally, if they go well, it's because there's been a lot of preparation beforehand, and these are, I think, were hearings that went well. But it's by no means the end of the process. The hearings are to help clarify issues and raise new issues and questions. There's a lot of questions that we all have to answer, that HBO has to answer for, and Viacom and the cable industry, and even ourselves. And there will be some more hearings. Those have been promised. I'd like to see if we can quickly generate some response in the Senate, get more co-sponsors for the bills in the Senate, generate hearings in the Senate. As most people remember, last year when we got the legislation passed, it was because we were able to get it put onto another piece of legislation. Well, none of us know what kinds of legislation may emanate from either the House or the Senate this year that this can be attached to, or maybe on its own it will get where we want it to go. So I think the kinds of work that we're doing, this is just the beginning. You know, we've got their attention. We've got 70 co-sponsors on one bill, 60 on another. Let's keep the pressure up. I think the other side is clearly on the defensive now, and between what the Justice Department has been doing, with what Congress has been doing, the message is going to be loud and clear. And whether we get it solved in the marketplace or ultimately by legislation, and there's no doubt in my mind we're going to get this thing solved.
Round 2, April?
The date hasn't been set yet. I would hope that we're going to have it in April. We're going to push for as early as possible.
I think Worth did mention that, if I recall. During the hearings, I think he said he would hold them in April. Didn't mention a date, but did at least mention that.
It was clear
Yeah,
that,
it was clear that he said April.
that Congressman Townsend especially, in the comment that he made, let's get these hearings the second day as soon as possible so that
Yes.
we can address the situation and bring these hearings in before we have to perform an autopsy. That was the comment that he made.
Yeah,
He says it's easy later on to say, well, this is what happened to the patient. Let's address this patient before we have to get to that situation.
That's quite correct. I didn't hear the April date. That's when the NCTA guy was whispering in my ear.
We've had a lot of calls at the office, incidentally. I don't know if you've been getting them. Obviously, people are on top of this issue. But a lot of calls asking us when that date would be, and I think as soon as we can procure that date, it would really be helpful. And we've got a listening audience. Several months ago, Rick, I remember you making a plea that the industry unite and that people send those letters to their congressmen. I hope this doesn't make you feel comfortable out there, but they did their homework. And the congressmen, several of them made that statement that they don't remember the last time that they had as much response with as much emotion as from you out there in the audience. And that goes to show that we've got people in our industry that listen and that understand that they need to get behind and call their congressman and write to them. It's excellent.
We heard from at least 5 staffers who said absolutely no holds barred. They got more constituent mail on this issue than on any other issue currently pending before their legislator. And that just goes to show you the kind of effect constituent contact with the legislators can have. There's absolutely nothing that can replace that, because those people out there are the ones who elect these people to the House. That's it. You just cannot replace that. We heard from Joe Overholt. I don't know if you know him. He is
Spoke
a
to him
dealer
twice last week,
in
yeah.
Tennessee. He uplinked the hearings and put some other information in there. I think Space provided him with Al Gore's videotape
Right.
from the Las Vegas show, and that was very, very successful. We heard from some of the staffers from the congressman in Tennessee who had seen the show, and the results were tremendous. And we would encourage everybody who's working through a state association that kind of local grassroots effort that really brings home to the congressman how the people in his state are reacting to this issue is extremely effective.
Joe heads up the Tennessee Satellite Dealers Association, was very active in the State Earth Station Day that Tennessee held last week on the 5th of March. And the regional groups of dealers which are getting together are having a tremendous impact. They are banding together They're chopping down those barriers we've talked about that have grown between satellite dealers in the past. They're getting together, unifying, much like we talked about in this PR program. They're putting funds in a pool to combat adverse advertising. But on top of that, they're talking. The dialogue has started, and they're supporting the industry in a positive manner. They're generating enthusiasm between each other and amongst their own customers and their consumers. And it just seems to be snowballing. It's really an exciting effect.
Yes, and I think, Jerry, that one thing that we should bear in mind, we're quite excited because we certainly did get a tremendous amount of public spotlight and attention. But that's going to do something to the cable operators and the programmers. They are going to get themselves better prepared next time. They realized that we had done our homework, that we had worked very hard, that our victory in 1984 was no fluke. You know, we've done it twice now. And so they're going to take us very seriously. So the fight is not going to get easier. It's actually going to get tougher. So we have to be prepared, and we should go out there and write your congressman. If he's not a co-sponsor or she's not a co-sponsor of this legislation, get him on the bill now. That's really important.
Rick, I got a telephone call today from Ecosphere, and I've gotten a similar question from others. Many people think that we're about to get legislation right now, or that these hearings would lead to legislation. And if you could just explain what we've accomplished, with or without it, the legislation.
Well,
I think that we've exerted a lot of pressure short of legislation.
yes, you know, we don't necessarily have to get legislation passed to achieve the victories. The other side could say, well, you know, it looks like we're going to be re-regulated again, or what have you. We better play ball and play fairly with the earth station industry. I guess, you know, one of the great examples that was pointed out, I don't know if you can see
This is our audio visual effects here.
by Congressman Tozan, if you watch the hearings, is that HBO, which charges $12.95 for the service, and they charge cable generally about $5 nationwide. If you're inside a cable area, of that $12.95, they give what they call a rebate. I think there's another name for that. Back to the cable operator who does nothing for making the sale if it's made directly through HBO. In fact, the cable operator, in some instances, depending on what they charge, may make more off the rebate than they do if they made the sale for themselves. Well, if you take this $5 rebate and multiply that by 2 million Earth Station subscribers, and let's say 75% of them, as Michael Fuchs testified from HBO, go direct to HBO, that's $7.5 million per month being rebated of our people's money back to the Earth Station industry, back to the cable industry, for no service provided. Not a very humorous situation, but to be humorous for a minute, I'd like to show you what was on the other side of Billy Tozan's chart. This was the negative advertising campaign, and I think we did a lot to, just by having those hearings and pointing out that this was what one of the trade associations did that started this, is I think this whole campaign will be X'd out. I think we're not going to see much more of cable negative advertising. It's very foolish for them to do it, and I think it hurt them very much before the Congress.
Two other surprising things, at least to me. Number one, Michael Fuchs, who's the chairman of HBO, said that he'd have a dish if he could get one at his apartment in New York because he thought it provided more benefit than cable television. And two, Jim Mooney, the president of the NCTA, said that over 70 channels are available to cable TV, yet 20 announced scrambling plans. So that clearly what we've been saying all along is that, you know, there are many, many other channels that will never scramble, and that these are available to satellite dish owners.
Yes, and I think that's an important point. Yeah, it's nice to get endorsements from the other side, but the important point is that, you know, people wonder why we filed against CBS or what we're considering doing with the scrambling of WOR. And basically, I think it's important that people understand the position is that if we defend against every channel that might go black or might go dark, we will protect them all in the long run. We can't forget that eventually this technology will shift or might shift to KU band or other frequencies. Unless we protect the access question right now, we'll lose it down the road. So we have to look at long-term planning and long-term strategy.
We've got some calls waiting already. Glenn from Georgia is calling. Glenn, I know you've been waiting for a few minutes. Thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Okay, I can't hear you too good, but I'll try to listen through my television set. Okay, I would like to congratulate you. I think you did showed integrity to recognize the FM America people. I know it took guts. Mr. Boyle, you know it took guts too, but you did the right thing. Also, I'd like to ask Mr. Brown a question. On the industry, it looks like is going to have to choose a decoder for industry-wide. I don't know whether MACOM will be that decoder or not. What I would like to ask him is, don't you think that space should be kind of impartial to which decoder would be used and let the industry as a whole choose it? The reason I ask this is I know you're affiliated with Viewers First, I believe it is, and they have decided to use the MACOM system. And what I would like to know is, can you be impartial picking an industry standard for decoder when you've already chosen it? And I appreciate the call. Appreciate you letting me call.
The answer to your, well, there's a two-part question. First of all, space or the industry itself really isn't going to pick any decoder. I wish that was the case. I wish that the Congress or the FCC had created standards of what a decoder should be like, and all the manufacturers could manufacture that decoder. And that's sort of what we're pushing, but that hasn't happened. The people that are picking the decoders are the programming services. Home Box Office picked HBO. The Movie Channel Showtime picked MACOM, excuse me. Cable News Network picked MACOM. MTV picked MACOM. So the programmers are really making that choice. Select TV will make a choice of which decoder, and they have not yet announced that choice, so I think that information is incorrect. We also may see developing some of the programming services picking more than one decoder, and that would require them to uplink their communications twice on two different satellites, and the purpose, therefore, would be to give the consumer a chance to buy a low-cost decoder. That might put some added pressure on MACOM to, in the marketplace, bring the cost down. I think that the hearings themselves let MACOM know in no uncertain terms that there ought to be competition, and I think they may move in that direction. And I think they are trying to be more responsive than I think that the industry at first perceived that they might be on that issue. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, we have a call from Bill from Colorado. Bill, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Brown about his involvement with Viewers, First Viewers National, and is that kind of a conflict of interest, you being working for space and now coming out with a part of the programming package? I'll hang up and you can answer.
No, it is not a conflict by any stretch of the imagination. The idea behind Viewers First was to see if we could get programming delivered to us from the programmers outside of having it delivered through a cable television system. The whole argument is that cable television has an incentive to price the programming at a very high rate, as high as or pretty close to their cable rate, and that the only way we're going to get the programming to a competitive level would be to have an entity or more than one entity that could buy the programming at wholesale from the programmers and compete at retail with the cable operators. And as the case turned out, that was very instrumental at the hearings. All the congressmen understood when Mr. Roberts, who was the representative of Viewers First, was constantly questioned, and he said that he could not get the programming from Home Box Office. They refused to deal with him. Congressman Worth, the chairman, said, well, what if it was Sears Roebuck? Would you deal with them, HBO, and or Viacom? And neither one of them said that they would. It's very clear, and the existence of Viewers First helped prove that there was a cartel forming and a monopoly to deny the programming to members of our industry.
Okay. We have a call from Bob from the Bahamas. Bob, go ahead. Hello?
3 questions, and I will repeat all 3 for you here, and you can respond on television. First off, scrambling, they can only sell scrambled programming inside the continental United States, and I live in the Bahamas. So therefore, I cannot get my authorization for my decoder. What I have done is I purchased a video cipher 2 and had it exported over, and I've duplicated the proms with someone else who lives in Fort Lauderdale, so when they turn on that, his decoder, mine gets turned on too, but that's the only way I can get the programming in the Bahamas. The second question I have is if space had anything to do with LaMonica being escorted out of the Space STI show. And the third question is, why don't you ask Keith LaMonica to come on your show next Tuesday night?
Let me answer the first.
Okay.
I'd be glad to answer the first one, and then pass along the answers to either one of you for the other question. The studios that produce movies want to distribute one way in the United States and have a different means of distribution outside of the United States. And in fact, they have been able to control that for what we call theatrical or movie theater distribution, and also for television distribution. They have not been able to do that via satellite because we all know the signal spills over. I believe that eventually we will be able to deal with Hollywood on that issue, deal with the studios on getting the programming out to the Caribbean, hopefully on a simultaneous fashion. Obviously, we have immense problems right here dealing with the distribution question in the United States. When we solve that, well, then we'll move over into the spillover area. However, I think that many of the basic services will not be as restrictive as the movie services. And so I don't think we're going to see a blackout of the Caribbean and other areas.
Joe, how would you like to field the second or third part, or both?
Well, I think that with the second question regarding Keith LaMonica being thrown out of the show in Las Vegas, that decision was made by Rick Snaringer. According to Mr. Snaringer, Keith had violated certain contractual provisions that applied to exhibitors. Because of that, he was asked to leave the premises. We have every word from Mr. Snaringer that Keith was not bodily thrown out of the show the way some reports have described this situation. That is entirely not true. Third, we have a lot of people who have asked to be on this show. We have limited time and limited constraints, and I think that we have tried to open up the dialogue as much as possible.
I just got a message through the IFB that Keith was asked to be on the show by Pat Olson from Nova Video Productions. She just called in asking if we would respond on her behalf. That he was asked, he did refuse. As far as the show that we do on the alternate weeks when we produce the show here in Washington, I could say that I think I could speak for both of us. Joe, you and I kind of talk to the situation of who's going to be on the show, and that we would entertain talking to Keith about it. He has not been open to dialogue between us. I know you've got a comment about that. I think it's important to address this issue. However, quite frankly, based on the slanderous comments, I'm sure that we'd like to talk to him ahead of time, talk to him about constructively being a guest on our show. But I, for one, am not interested in putting on a minstrel show or having any providing a format to provide attacks on any individuals or our association. I mean, constructive comments are welcomed. Joe, would you talk about that?
I think, Jerry, I just wanted to add that I asked to be on Keith's show. He said no. I wanted to discuss certain things. He refused to discuss them. Secondly, I think there's areas that we can agree. However, we do disagree with some of his methods. I think we try to be a little bit diplomatic because we're dealing with some very sensitive and some very serious issues, and you can't go beating people over the head to try to accomplish your goals.
Just one more comment there. Taylor Howard did make it known on our show from Las Vegas that at any time he would be willing to sit down with Keith, start a dialogue, try to find some common grounds that we could work from to have a meeting of the minds, as it were, and to my knowledge, he has not been responded to on that level yet. We've got a call from Jim from New Mexico. Jim, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I appreciate the ability to talk to you. I'm Jim from Albuquerque. I really appreciate your efforts in Washington. I'm a space member. I'm also an FM America member. I'd like to make one little slide comment and then my main question. It's true that Rick Sneeringer didn't have there was no physical contact with Keith. He walked out peacefully of his own. I was right there beside him. Now, my real question is, you talked about a lack of decoder standard, which I think is going to seriously hinder the effort until there is some kind of a standard. Max Sweeney right now of Texas has a new bill 3989, which would require FCC to standardize this decoder. I'm wondering how Space feels about this. I realize they at once did support 3989. I'm wondering if they still do. I'll hang up and answer your call. Thank you very much.
Rick?
The answer to the question, I know those hearings were very long, and it may have not been possible to view all of them, but Taylor Howard testified in most emphatic terms in our written testimony that we provided to the subcommittee, also stated that we were fully in support of having a congressional or FCC mandated standard for decoders, and we wholeheartedly support that portion of Max Sweeney's bill, 100%.
I think that was something else that Taylor said at the hearings on the standard for the decoders is a point he always makes when he goes to Australia. They tell him that we may have had a color television standard in the United States first, but the Australians did it right. And I think his point there is that although MACOM is the standard that people are gravitating to, it may not be the best standard for the industry. And in Taylor's opinion, it certainly isn't the best standard for the home satellite earth station industry and to encourage future developments in home earth station technology, and that's a real problem.
Robin, I think, too, that it's that standard, generically speaking, as a technology that the industry is adopting. It's not that anybody, especially space, is supporting one industry's product over another. That's just not the case.
That's right, and I don't think the criticism is in any way, in terms of our legislative position, directed at MACOM per se. It would be any company. We think that the standard ought to be there, and we also think that one of the large problems is that the whole reason really espoused for these decoders in the beginning was theft of service, that there are 5 million illegal, so to speak, subscribers to cable. They're not subscribers, they're illegal, of course. And this decoding mechanism does nothing whatsoever to protect that, because that theft of service occurs along the cable line, and this is a descrambling module at the head end, so it has nothing to do with it.
You mean Correct. It doesn't keep them off the telephone poles?
That's right.
We've got a call from Jim from Tennessee. Go ahead, Jim.
Hello?
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make a comment, and I'll make it short and sweet. I guess, first of all, I am a member of Space, and I think dollar for dollar, that's one of the greatest investments any dealer, manufacturer, or distributor could make. And I was thinking about the ad sticks that you sent out concerning scrambling. When I advertise, I actively use the space symbol, which I'm proud to be a member of Space. And I hate to see another coalition come about or made, whereas I think Space has brought us so far this way, to this point now, and I think it would be a mistake. We're in such a fast-moving industry that I think within the next 45 or 60 days, everything will be settled. And I think if everybody just gets behind Space, rally behind it, whatever differences we have, we can iron those out after we get this scrambling situation squared away.
Okay, Jim, I think one of the things that I want to clarify is sometimes there's a misunderstanding or a confusion made between public relations and advertising. We are not going outside and subscribing to another advertising campaign. We're happy with the campaign we have going. That's underway. We have an excellent firm. This is something totally different. The PR thrust is an industry-wide thrust which will hopefully unite the effort industry-wide with all groups concerned to educate the public, to reaffirm to the consumer that the skies will not go dark, that satellite television is still the best choice, and to reiterate the access issue and the reasonable rate issue with the bills in Congress, and that, as an industry-wide practice, we believe can be very helpful in this coalition. However, the advertising, rest assured, is still, to my knowledge, unless other groups want to come and join us or start their own particular advertising campaign, is strictly an in-house situation. And if you have any further questions on that, you can call me at the office. We're going to go to commercial break right now, and we'll be back to field more calls right after these messages.
The Trans 10 by Qualtronics, quality you've grown to expect from the entire Trans series of antennas. Tested and compatible for KU band as well as C-band reception. Guaranteed for 2-degree spacing as well. Thanks to tests by the McDonnell Douglas Corporation. The Trans 10 continues to be the most sought-after antenna in the marketplace because of performance, strength, and dependability. Eye-appealing with baked acrylic, thermoset black finish, the Trans 10 simply looks great. The 2-stage rib design assures fast, snug assembly of the panel, less than 1 hour for the entire assembly, and UPS shippable too. This is quality you've grown to expect from Qualtronics, where performance and dependability are everyday words. The Trans 10 simply outperforms the competition.
Welcome back. We're ready to take more calls, and we have Wally from Maryland. Wally, go ahead. Can you hear us?
Okay, very good evening to you. Thank you very, very
evening.
much. My name is Wally Frank, and I'm a small dealer here in Upper Marlboro. First, the main reason I was calling, I was very, very glad to hear your comment that we made at the beginning of the show concerning the burying of the hatchet, if you will, between Space and evidently FM America. I am a member of Space and also a member of FM America. And the main concern that I had was that this industry, being as new as it is, we really don't need to be having a division of efforts here. This is the time when I agree with you that we all need to band together, and especially with the momentum that we now have going up on Capitol Hill, we don't need any division of efforts taking place at this time. Being a ham operator, we have a similar situation that occurred there for many years with the American Radio Relay League representing us, and many people feeling that they didn't really have our interests at heart either. But they were the strongest voice out there, and they were the ones representing us the strongest at the time. And we all had to band behind them, and I think it has all worked out for the best. And I can see the same thing happening for us here in the TVRO industry. And I look forward to you and any other organization out there binding us all together as one group and going forward from here.
Well, thanks very much for your comments.
Thank you.
We have Bernie from Pennsylvania. Bernie?
How are you?
Very good. How are you tonight?
Well, I have information with regard to why you had so many congressmen at the hearing. You know, it's an election year, and a lot of our consumers like myself, who's not a dealer or involved in it, I'm just a user, and I enjoy it very much. The user fee, I would think a reasonable fee in a cable service area would be all right. But in those rural areas where we do not and are not capable of receiving a cable hookup, I think we shouldn't pay any user fee, but we should be able to get our decoder from the local dealer. I will hang up now and listen to your comments.
Robin, would you like to comment to that?
Sure. I think it's been the position of this association that the people who produce that programming, who send it out to be received, whether it's through cable, whether through dish, whether through microwave, the people who pay for that programming, HBO, who goes to Hollywood and has to buy that programming, has got to be reimbursed. If HBO can't make money selling the programming to the home market through whatever distribution means, then there will not be an HBO, there will not be a Showtime, there will not be a movie channel. These programmers have got to be reimbursed for their product. And the issue that Space has been trying to fight for and is fighting for is that the product has got to be available at a reasonable price. And it's not for us to say what that price is. It's not for anybody to say what that price is. The only thing that will determine a reasonable price is competition. There's got to be competition in the marketplace, and that's what we are fighting for. It doesn't matter what HBO says today, what Showtime says today, what movie channel says today, as far as the price is going to be. You don't know that that price won't change tomorrow. And the only thing that will guarantee a fair price is competition. And I think that that's something that came out at the hearings, and when TCI testified, it said, well, Space is, I think they tried to imply that Space is endorsing the TCI distribution program because we talk about it on Space Showtime, because we talk about it in the newsletters. Well, I think that's a testimony to the fact that Space is trying to get the information out there. But the only position that Space endorses is one where there's competition to guarantee you outside the cable area, you inside the cable area, you the public, no matter where you are, a fair price through competition. So you've got to remember the programmers have got to be reimbursed or that programming will not be made available to anybody. But it's got to be fair. There's no doubt about it.
We have a call from Jay from Montana. Jay?
Yes. Geez, you caught me by surprise here. Anyhow, my question is, I called in and I talked to Fuchs on this when they had C-SPAN. Anyhow, I told them I wanted to ask 2 questions, and they let me ask the first one. They didn't let me ask the second one, and that was if they own TCI, the largest cable company, and they're buying Group W, doesn't that give them a monopoly? And I was wondering if we've done anything to address this. And I'm not a member of Space. I've been a satellite dealer for 5 years, and I'm not even a member of FM America either. But I've been just sitting in the wings, and it's time to act and do something, and I've got to go one way or the other.
We appreciate your participation, Jay, and we hope we can sway you towards the Space side. But Rick, could you answer that question?
Well, Home Box Office is a sister company to ATC, not TCI. And ATC is the second largest cable company and growing. There is no cable company that has a monopoly in terms of market share among cable companies. The closest is probably TCI, which is probably 15% of the marketplace at this point in time. However, they do have local monopolies, local franchises, which are in essence monopolies, and to the extent that Home Box Office is trying to protect its own monopolies through its ATC cable franchises, we think that there is a serious question, and the Justice Department has been conducting an informal investigation of that, and I think and hope that will become formalized pretty soon, and that's one of the areas that we certainly will look into.
Very good. For a minute, let's just sit back and talk about these regional associations that are forming all over the country. A couple of months ago, if you remember, Rick, when I called you and you put me in touch with Fred Finn, and Fred and I started working on this, getting a set of bylaws together for regional associations, we had a couple calls at that point. Initially, we had 3 or 4 groups starting. We have probably 25 or 30 organizations in the forming right now, and several which have already gotten underway. In the near future, hopefully within a couple of weeks, I want to have a show where we can dedicate the show to having Gordon Main, who is our dealer board member, who is the chairman of the committee studying regional associations. I want to have Gordon on. I've talked to him. He's more than willing to be on. We have Chuck Hewitt, who's going to be doing some extensive traveling around the country, helping to promote these associations. The results that we've seen, and Joe, you got some input on this too, the results that we've seen so far with the organizations that have already started, the one in Kansas City, Missouri, the Tennessee group, a group down in Florida, SCAN in the Northwest, who is a very aggressive group. The feedback we're getting from these groups, the feedback that we get to Space from these associations, is that they are turning around the sales situation. Even before the hearings, they were successful in doing this. And I think that we need to promote any ideas like this which are going to promote the industry, but which are going to bring customers into the showrooms and help dealers help themselves. Any of you dealers out there that have any questions at all would be interested in forming regional associations which can, again, have a member from your association reporting back to, let's say, the dealer board of Space, and have input in that way, but where Space can use its clout, its membership services that we have available to these organizations and help dealers help themselves. I would encourage you to contact Space. I will put you in touch with either Gordon Main or another dealer board member. But Rick, I'd like you to comment on that and just give us some input from the legal standpoint of how that can be helpful.
I think it can be very helpful as we go down the road towards success, and we are going down that road. as we get larger and larger, national headquarters is not going to be able to have the time or the facilities to answer and deal with every single problem that all dealers may have. And to the extent that there's a group of dealers that can get together in a state or a locality or region and work together to solve problems, for example, zoning problems, and to work on the legislative process, you're going to have people that you can talk to and immediately get in touch with, and I think it's very important. The cable industry has done that. The broadcasters have done that. There are state and regional associations in both those industries, and it's a lesson that we can well learn from them, and I think we ought to do it and not waste any time about it. I think it's going to be very helpful to us, and it gives us more strength, too.
Very good. We've just got a few minutes left in the show. Let's take one more call. We have Wilmer from Texas. Wilmer, if you could kind of make it short so we can answer your question and just make our closing comments. Go ahead.
Hi. This is Wilmer from Texas, and I want to congratulate the people from the industry at the hearings. I think they did a beautiful job, but I think the best one for us was Fuchs. What gets me is here's the man sitting there who says that we've been stealing his signal, not paying, and then turns around and says he can charge us $1 extra for the other programmers. In other words, he's collecting for their programming that he's not putting out. Now who's stealing signal?
Okay.
It's a wonderful deal.
And by the way, don't fall for that nonsense that it's $1 different. Our survey revealed that the average nationwide rate for HBO at the cable TV level, cable subscribers, was $10.05. That's a long way from $1 to $12.95, and I don't even think that's the relevant number. If our industry could buy it wholesale and sell it retail, it'd be a lot less expensive.
Let's get some closing comments to the end of the show. Joe, is there anything else that you'd like to bring out tonight before we have to go off the air?
I think, Jerry, that as we all mentioned several times this evening, we're really on a roll right now. And I think the worst thing that we could do is to become complacent and just get that attitude that we've wanted. And as we mentioned, we have hearings again in April. It's important to rally behind this business and this industry, and we need your support.
Okay, Robin?
I think Joe summed it up. Keep those cards and letters coming into Washington to your senators and your representatives, and we will get some results on Capitol Hill. There's no doubt about it.
Rick?
Briefly, the PR campaign, I think, is going to get people into the showrooms, and that's really important. But long term, we have to make sure you have something to sell when you get in there, and that's why we're doing the legal legislative effort. Those two things together are winners.
The last comment I'd like to make is that we really appreciate, and we haven't addressed this before, but we've got a growing number of consumer members of Space, both those who have opted to purchase the magazine subscription and those that have asked us to represent their rights, and also viewers' rights. We have received several $1,000s in contributions from several thousand viewers. They're coming in by the stacks every day. We appreciate that. We want your input. We thank you very much for your support. We look forward to an increasing number of supporting people asking us to represent their viewers' rights. It's important for the congressional hearings. We will be back next week with another issue and another segment of Space Showtime. Good night.